Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial. Today we'll be taking a look at a password recommendation. Hi, my name is Sipiwo. For all your first time comers, in this channel we cover everything from HTML, CSS, JavaScript and website design. So in today's tutorial we're taking a look at designing this password recommendation over here. I'm not sure if it's a Firefox extension, but my Firefox does this. When you try to insert a password, it will give you a strong password recommendation. So I thought it would be a nice thing if we just create a JavaScript tutorial on how we can generate a random password for a password field. So it will pick up if this input is type password, then it will show you this little pop-up over here with the generated password that you can just click, and then it will use that password. Alternatively, if you click on it and you start typing your own password, and that recommendation also go away. With no further ado, let's quickly jump into this one. Okay guys, so let's get into this project. Over here I have my directory already set up, recommend password. I'm using Visual Studio Code with this one. I'm just going to work in two files, index.html and recommended password. So in my index.html, I'm going to use Bootstrap on this one because it's just a simple Bootstrap form. So I'm going to say Bootstrap $, and what that is going to do, if I click over here, it's going to generate me this boilerplate of HTML tag with already linked into Bootstrap. And the other thing I'm also going to link into is my font awesome. So I can just say font awesome $, and it's going to pull in my font awesome CSS, which I'm going to use for that icon over there that you guys see. Let's quickly change the title. I'm going to call this one generate password. Okay, and then let's quickly set up the HTML here at the bottom. Quickly, the first thing I'm going to say container, because I'm going to use a div with a container, and then I'm going to add a custom class which I call it flexbox, because I want this container to have a flexbox. And inside this container, what I'm going to have is an h3, and then inside that, with that h3, I'm going to have another div. I'm going to call this div, let me just call it right before my h3. I'm gonna have a form. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have a form, and my form is gonna have a class which I just called form container. I'm gonna say form dash container, and then I'm gonna add some padding into it. So I can just do padding 5 and also padding x-axis also 5. Let's enter that quickly. So it generated me this div over here with the form with all the classes that I currently have. I'm not going to use this action because I'm not going to submit this form. And then inside here I'm going to have an h3, and my h3 I'm just going to call it user registration, and then from there on I'm going to create this input field over here, which I'm just going to say Bootstrap 4, and then it's going to be an input. So it's going to generate me this input over here. As you guys can see, it generated my label. Let me just do this to close out the sidebar. That's Control B to close out the sidebar, and also Control B to open it again. Okay, that's when you're using Visual Studio Code. User generation, that's my h3, and then I have my label, I have my input type, and I have my small text over there. So for my label, I'm just gonna say email address, and then input type is gonna be the email. My class, let me just remove that. Class is fine. I'm not gonna use this because I'm not actually gonna do anything with this input. It's just there to make sense why you're entering a new password. But I don't really need this input, so placeholder, I'm just gonna say enter email. My placeholder over there, and my small text will be that we'll never share your password with anyone else. Let me just save that over there, and then my second input, which is going to be my password, let me just generate that one again. I'm going to say Bootstrap 4-input, and it's going to generate it for me. And this one I'm going to say new password, And I'm not gonna change this to password, because if I do change it to password, my Firefox will pick up it's a password input and then it will pop up its own recommendation password. So I'm just gonna stick with the one that I want to do for now, and I'm gonna leave this at text. I'm gonna take away this guy. I'm not gonna need this guy. I'm also not gonna need. Let me leave that over there. I'm just doing some cleanup over here, and then my placeholder can just say password. Let's just say, let's make it same as the one above. Let's say enter password, and this I'm not gonna need. Let me just remove that over there. Okay, let me just make sure I have all the fields that I need. So what I do have currently, I do have my password input, and I have my email input. So I need to create this guy over here. Okay, so where I'm going to create that is just below my input over here in the same div as that one, because I wanted to have the same width as you guys can see over there. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. So this one I'm gonna do a div. So my div is gonna be password container, which is actually this guy, or it's actually this guy over here, my password container. So I'm gonna say password dash, wait, I think I'm spelling container wrong. Password dash container, which is wrong. There we go. I can't spell container today. Password container, and then I'm gonna add another password class, which is gonna be hidden. It's a class that I'm gonna create, and then I'm gonna use a padding class on the x-axis, which is gonna be -3, and I'm gonna use another padding class on the y-axis, which is gonna be 2. So this is Bootstrap classes, if you guys don't know, to add padding onto your div. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to create a div, and this div is going to be an ID, and then my ID, I'm just going to call it select password, because this I'm going to use in my JavaScript. All right, and then I'm just going to generate this icon over here, this key icon, using font awesome. So over there I can say fa4-key. Okay, say enter, and that is my icon over there. It's called far key. And with that, I'm going to have a span, which is just going to be the span. It says use a securely generated password. It's that span over there. So I'm going to say span, and in my span, I'm going to say use a securely generated password. Okay, just that span. And this span, I'm just going to add a class to it, because I am going to want to style it. So let's say class, and I'm going to say view dash saved passwords. Okay, and then just below it, it's going to be this password over here. So now I'm going to generate a p tag where I'm actually going to generate my password in it. So I'm going to say paragraph tag, and I'm going to say generate recommended password, and I'm going to add a class to this, which is text dash muted. It's a Bootstrap class that's muted with a padding also an x-axis of 4. Okay, and then inside that p tag, I'm just gonna add a default password something over here. Let's just make it so it doesn't look that kind of weird. Let's do a too much numbers next to each other. That's fine, you guys get the point. Just a generated default password over here, and then that's my div, closing div, my register button. Let's quickly add that register button right down here. Now I'm going to say button dash btn, which is a Bootstrap class, dash btn. I'm going to say default, let's say primary, that is my button. I'm just going to say register. Okay, so btn primary button register. It's not gonna do anything, also just a button. So if I save this quickly, and I'm gonna go live over here just to generate a local server quickly, and this is what I currently have. I have my username, inputs, and there's my password with my key. Okay, so next thing that I'm going to do after this, let's do some styling before we head on over to the JavaScript. So I'm just gonna do my styling in the head tag over here for this one. I'm not gonna use a CSS file, but I highly recommend that you do use the CSS file if you're going to expand on this project. So my first class that I had, if you guys do remember, was that flexbox, and then this one is just gonna be display display flex, right? That's what I'm missing, sorry. So I have to wrap this up with style tags, sorry about that. So let me say flex box display. My display is gonna be a flex, and then I'm gonna say align item center. I'm gonna say justify content center, and I'm gonna give it a height of 100 VH. So 100 VH. If I save this, there we move it immediately to the center, and that's why I have that class over there. And then next thing that I want to do, I'm just going to add a background color to this one, to this form over here, and that form I call it actually form container. So I'm just going to do dot form dash container, and say background color, and it's EF, like a light grayish color, and there it is. So I have that class hidden, and that class hidden applies to this password container over here, because on default I want this hidden until we had an event where they actually on click on this, or on enter or on change, and then show this recommended password. But we are going to do a couple of if statements there once we get there. So I'm just going to display none, and I'm going to add a visibility to it and say visibility hidden. I'm not going to save it because that's going to go away, and I still need to style this. Let's say password dash container. If I misspelled it, let's just keep with the misspelling of it. So my password dash container, I'm going to give it a background color. Let's say background color of pure white is FFF. I'm going to give it a border right of 1 pixel solid, a border bottom of the same, and also a border right left. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a border color. So my border color is going to be hashtag 999. I'm just going to give it a shadow, say box shadow. Box shadow is going to be 008 pixels RGBA for transparency, 0.3. Okay, and then another thing I want to do is I want to rotate this key so that this key can actually look like a key instead of facing down. I have no idea why would they have the key face down in the first place. So for dash key, I'm just gonna say transform, rotate it, rotated 135 degrees, and I've changed the font size of it to be 9 points. And I think that's it with my key. Hashtag cursor, right? My ID select password, which is actually this entire field over here, but I wanted to change my cursor so that it looks like you can select it. So if I save this, let's see what we have. Let me just take away this hidden class first so that you can see. So I'm just making the hiddens. Okay, this is what we have, and that's why I have my cursor. So I've changed the cursor to be a pointer so that it can give an indication that you can click on it, and once you click on it, it's going to take this value, input it in here so that you can use it recommended password. So I think that's it for my HTML in CSS. Now we're going to head on over to the JavaScript. So let me just go ahead and link my JS file over here. I'm going to say script source, going to be / recommended password / recommended password.js, which is that file. Okay, now let's head on over to my JS file. So I'm just going to click on Control B again to open up my sidebar. I'm gonna click on passwords. You guys can see it's empty. Let's quickly do a test, see if it works. I'm just gonna add in here an alert, and this alert's gonna say test. I'm gonna save it. There we go. So it loaded the HTML and it says test, so that my JS file does link correctly. Let me remove that and let me close down my sidebar so I have more space to work with over here. So first thing first, I need to get my password input, this over here, because this is what I'm going to use most of this JS. So I'm going to say const, create a const variable over there. I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it password underscore input is equal to, say, document dot, let's do query select, and it's, sorry about that. Let me just put this back, delete that guy. So my query select, it's going to be the ID, which is password underscore input is this field's ID over here. So now we're going to create a function to generate our password, or random password. This is a GitHub function that I've got, not from GitHub, from Stack Overflow, which I'm just going to paste quickly for you guys and explain what's happening here. So basically, I'm creating a variable over here, or the guy created a variable over here that holds this entire string. It actually just goes till there, and I've added the special characters over here because I want them to be part of my password. And then it created this result variable, which is an empty string, and then he created this for loop to loop through as many times as you recommended or as you wanted to do. So I wanted to loop 14 times because that's how long I want my password to be at, 14 characters minimum. So you can always change this 14 to something else, or you can even pass through a param over here how long you want it to go for, how long that password wanted to be. For this tutorial sake, I just made it 14, and then what it's doing is it's creating this result string. It's adding those characters, right? The character at. So as you guys would see, if I hover over here at the character at that specific position, and it's doing a math.floor to calculate it, and it got this variables of this function over here to quickly generate random positions for that floor. So what this floor will do is it will return the greatest integer, which is equals to its numeric value, and then this random over here, this method random, just generates a random number between 1 and 0 times it with the length of this guy. So if this length is 20, let's make it 40 something, so it's gonna say 43 times 1, or 43 times 0, 43 times 1, and by doing that, it's going to spit out a random number. So it's going to either take that one or take this one, or even that special character over there, add it, as because it's going to do that 14 times, and it keeps adding it to this string, and it just return that string. So basically what's happening here, I'm saying take a character at a specific position 14 times by using this random value that's got and multiplying it by this length, and then you get that random password thing it generated for you. So our next function that we're going to use, it's called use recommended password. But before I get to that one, because I am using that one just to save, let's quickly create this function over here, which will show the recommended password. Okay, so let me create first not to show, which will hide it. Let's say const hide suggestion. Okay, so basically what this one is going to do is it's going to hide this box either if you start typing or you've selected the password. Then it needs to hide this box. This box mustn't show anymore. So for that to happen, I'm just going to say document dot query select, and it's called dot password container dot style. I'm just gonna say class list dot add, and the class it's adding, it's called hidden. So this hide box is just gonna add that class hidden. If we go back to my HTML, let's just change that back. There we go. Change it back to hidden. Let's say save. Okay, I'm gonna say save over here so we don't get that pop-up again. So this what this class does, it just adds it to hide that pop-up. Okay, so the next method that we're going to do, the next function we're going to do, it's use recommendation. So let's say const use recommended password, which is the password that it's recommended. So this function is going to fire if a client clicks on that box, then this one is going to fire. So what it's going to do is just going to get that password input there on top. I'm going to say its value, and I'm going to set its value to whatever is generated over here, so whatever is returned over there. And then I'm going to set it to that, so generated password. And then I'm going to change this function to be camel case, so it makes more sense. Keeping my variables lowercase with underscores, with my function I'm using camel cases. So I'm going to change it like that. It kind of makes sense. And once someone is click on this function, you use the recommended function. I also want to call the hide suggestion box function, so that I can also do just below over here, calling that function. And then now what we can do after this one, let's quickly go ahead and add the event listener. Document dot query select, and I'm going to use this one on the input called, or not input, but that select underscore password dot add event listener. And the event I'm going to listen for, it's a click event. And then I'm just going to fire off this callback. And once someone use that one, I'm just going to use the use recommendation. So basically what this one does, this event does, it says on that pop-up, if you click on it and then just fire off this function over here, and what this function will do is will take whatever is being returned by this generate password function and just set the input value, this value over here, this password value, set its value as whatever's been returned from this one over there. I hope I explained it to you guys so that you guys do understand. And the next one, what we're going to do, let's add an event listener for once you click on here. So a focus event listener. Once this input is focused, I want you to do the following for me. Before let's do that, let's say password. Sorry, let's go over here. Just going to say password input dot add event listener. And as I already said, the type of event I want to listen for is the focus event. And I'm going to do this callback over here. So basically what I want to do first is an if statement. So my if statement needs to check. I need to check if this guy is empty before showing that input, because you might want to have your own password over here and then it's no need for me to show that recommended password. So let's say if password input dot value is equal to an empty string, or we can even say, just to be safe, password dot value is equal to null. And if that's the case, do the following for me in this bracket, which is going to be document dot query select, and the query that I'm selecting, it's the generate underscore recommended password. I'm going to say dot inner HTML, it's equal to whatever's being returned by that function. That's the one. And then the other one that I want to do is add that hidden clause. Okay, let's go ahead and say document dot query selector. So query select is equal to dot password underscore container dot class list dot remove hidden, because I want it to show. That's what I'm saying. So on focus, show this box by removing the hidden class from it, and then do this. Okay, so first thing, generate the password before showing this. Let's go back and make this back to hidden so it doesn't show. Save, and let's see. So if I click on there, then you guys can see the recommended password. You see it's a random password every time you click on it. It's never the same password, or maybe would never be the same part because it's 14 characters. But yeah, so the next step that I want to do is I just want to check if someone start typing here. So if you start typing on password, I want this guy to be removed. I don't want to recommend a password if you have your own password in mind that you want to use. So that's our final step for this one. Now let's quickly create that one. I'm going to say password dot add an event listener, and the event that I'm listening to is key up. So on key up, do the following for me, do this callback, and then just use the hide suggestion box function. That's all that is to it. So now if I do this, there's nothing there because there's a value in it. If I do this and I start typing, it's going to hide it. And yeah, that is this tutorial. As with all my tutorials, guys, I've created a GitHub repo where you guys can go ahead and download those files if you want to play around with it. I'm in the process of creating 10 small JavaScript projects that I really do believe will get you playing around with JavaScript, understanding it better, how you manipulate the DOM, how you get values from the DOM, and how you add values to the DOM. If you guys have any suggestion of a type of video that you would like me to do, please hit me up on the comments. I'll definitely do that. Or you can pull my repo and just edit my readme file and add a project there that you would like to see in this 10 video series that I will be doing this 2 weeks. So I will see if I can publish, I want to publish 3 videos every week so that I can get to those 10 projects for you guys. And if you haven't done so, please do subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification so you get notified every time I post a new video, and do like these videos. They do help with the YouTube algorithm for some weird reason. Until next time, guys, stay safe.